Hey guys, today we've got an XLM XRP stronghold FedNow update. Yes, the FedNow, that big Federal Reserve FedNow, that's the one, because with Maximus Crypto, it's always alpha. Nothing but alpha with this, man. We got a good one for you guys. And so thank you for coming on here and checking out our stuff. Please like and subscribe. Got to give us some love. Please, please, please. We always love some love. And so stick around. And Maximus, what do you got for us today?
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. With just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.
Well, basically what I have here is what you're about to see from S.W.I.F.T.com. It's a new update from S.W.I.F.T, and they actually literally mentioned FedNow. I think it's important to get into that. So we're going to go ahead and pull this up, and what you see here is kind of eye-opening, to say the least. S.W.I.F.T mentions this. They said, additionally, payment types that were developed as irrevocable under the former understanding of Reg E. Real-time payments, FedNow and Zelle will have to consider the irrevocableness principle. Should these payments be truly irrevocable? If there is a caveat on receiving side liability, think about that. Receiving side liability. How many times did we study the regulated liability network and the regulated settlement network? On top of that, processes will need to be put in place for banks to investigate and resolve these fraudulent claims and ultimately rid their customers' roles of fraudulent receiving behavior. Quant Network actually solves this with Quant Authorize, but this is not really a Quant Network video. Where the case be, we're going to jump into this and basically shout again to our brother in space, Smoke Dog. He makes researching so much easier. If you're a researcher, look up Smoke Dog. Trust me, he'll make your life easier. He says, FedNow, it's a handshake with tokenized deposits. It's confirmed. Well, what does he have in that regard? Well, it's this. Smoke cites some key things. And in the citation, he talks about how tokenized bank deposits provide benefits that can upgrade our nation's payment infrastructure. And like it says, as I zoom in, the application DLT provides numerous benefits that can meaningfully improve the functionality of our payment systems. For one, numerous upgrades have been made to our payment systems in recent years to facilitate real-time payments like an always-on system. Think about what would be always on. Is the stock market always on? No. Is crypto always on? Yes, 24/7, 365. So we believe tokenized deposits build upon developments like FedNow and real-time payments by extending their capabilities to DLT platforms. That's crucial. And of course, cited from Bank of England and also cited from the M1 Federal Reserve. Now that's important because we even know, again, Bank of England with Quant Network, that partnership, and even the BIS. So again, I'll give them their flowers, the Quant Network yet again. Now, as I take you further into this and why it matters to you, let's jump back to why we're reviewing it all. Tokenized deposits will in fact complement FedNow. Checked. How do we know this? Well, for one, there's a citation from Cointelegraph, and what they have, well, we'll just jump right to what matters. Because what matters is literally seeing some of this. And what is it? It mentions specifically that FedNow, with real-time payments, because that's what RTP stands for, you have the whole thing of believing that tokenized deposits, like it says, complement these systems, creating a path to extend their functionality onto DLT platforms to power tokenized payments. Who is powering some of that? Well, that's where we're going to get further into what Smoke has and, of course, his key findings. Because when we do so, well, it brings us to this conclusion here in a bit. And what exactly is that? Well, it's not so much of a conclusion. It's more like, how in the world does Stronghold have a handshake with Ripple and also Stellar? Well, guess what? They do have a key partnership with both. And Smoke references that. I haven't talked about Stronghold in a while, but I like covering it once again because a statement from Stronghold themselves states, quote, "We are partnered with several distributed ledger technologies, which makes ISO 222 essential for our operations. Stronghold will be preparing for FedNow." Well, what is again the reference? Now, I remember sharing this probably over a year ago on a deep dive into Stronghold. There's a lot of new people here, and I want to point this out because, again, you can look this up, and this actually does come from the Stronghold website. Again, Stronghold's very, very underrated, low market cap, and for a lot of us, I covered like ZBCN. We want to get some of those low market cap gems. There's nothing wrong with paying attention to what's going on with some of that. So participants of Stronghold Net benefits from a set of blockchain-enabled capabilities. For one, point of sale, technology service as a software as a service providers, institutional partners. But whatever the case be, it's what you see towards the bottom, especially when it comes to payments and merchant financing and multi-ledger blockchain compatibility. I love that statement because when you see how Stellar and the XRP ledger comes into the mix, that's where it's at. And also don't forget about the whole thing about ACH. We already covered the whole thing of like Notcha, and that's a huge deal moving forward. But again, ISO 222. Sometimes you gotta mention Stronghold because they're definitely part of that ISO 222 picture. Now, as we jump back to this, I want you guys to see this for yourself. This is big enough. Says specifically, we are also introducing data improvements related to ISO 222 standardization procedure that will maintain our interoperability in fintech, traditional finance, and other crypto spaces. But we partner with several DLTs, which makes ISO 222 essential for our operations. Stronghold will also be preparing for FedNow when it's tentatively launches in July. That's big. And it always will be. Yes, the citation originally was posted September 7th, 2024. But again, in light of all the new developments, and especially with what S.W.I.F.T recently posted in regard to FedNow, I think that's a big deal. As we get further into this, here's another thing. USDF consortium document on tokenizing banking mentions that tokenized deposits can complement the FedNow system. Now, some of you guys are aware of USDF, but where case be, as we jump into this next part, back to what we just shared earlier. Again, we showed that on the previous one, earlier in the outline. So I think that's, again, worth pointing out because it's how it all lines up and how it all comes together, to say the least, because when you look more into it, it's like, there's something here to be said about some of this stuff. And of course, what we also see here is back to this particular tab. Let's share it. USDF consortium. Shout out to this guy, Danny Dark. He says USDF consortium is a membership-based association of FDIC insured banks. USDF is a bank-minted tokenized deposit referencing fiat on provenance. That's a big deal because leading blockchain for financial services, $9 billion in real-world assets, total value locked, leveraged by leading institutions and, of course, fintech. Take it to this next page. I'll blow this up a little bit more. All right. Well, some of you guys are aware of Axelar. Very underrated, right? So supports the fully digital native life cycle of real-world financial assets. Highlights things like, obviously, Cosmos. I think Cosmos is underrated. But even in the Cosmos citation, when you go further down into it, what about Cosmos and even XRP? Boom, boil it, mash it, stick in the stew. Ripple and Evmos org have joined forces built on the XRP ledger, EVM sidechain, and it's all there. So that's definitely worth pointing out. And again, citation was roughly around, I would say this time last year. But when you go to the right side, well, look at this. XRP mainnet, EVM sidechain, kind of see how it comes together. And of course, you see Axelar into the mix. I think Axelar is definitely underrated. All right, tad bit more about this before we get further into, again, why you're paying attention to it all. When we talk about XRP, and especially FedNow, well, back to Jess Cheng. She is a former Ripple employee who worked at the core of FedNow. She gave an off-the-record presentation, by the way, of the whole idea of where she explained how banks use XRP. We're going to take a listen and, of course, jump to Jesse.
Or you have a connector, a common account holder that has an account with Alpha Bank and with Beta Bank. But what if there were a way for Alpha Bank and Beta Bank to connect without even needing that? They could use, say, XRP. So this is the digital asset that's native to the Ripple consensus ledger. They could use that as a bridging tool. So in contrast to our previous examples, the hypos where it was fiat currency from end to end, each link along the way involved fiat currency. Here, banks like Alpha Bank and Beta Bank can use virtual currency to bridge that missing link just between them. And this tool could be especially useful for banks that are supporting emerging markets. So let's say we have Alpha Corp, now sitting in Brazil, wants to make a payment to Beta Corp, now sitting in Thailand for products that it purchased. So this means that Brazilian real are withdrawn from Alpha Corp's account with Alpha Bank, and Thai baht are deposited into Beta Corp's account with Beta Bank. But same questions before. How do Alpha Bank and Beta Bank bridge that link, that missing link between them? As a practical matter, it might be hard to find a common account holder that happens to have accounts in Brazil and in Thailand. But what if Alpha Bank happened to hold some XRP? And what if Beta Bank were willing to accept to receive some XRP? So their XRP balances are recorded on a distributed ledger. So this is virtual currency balances recorded on the Ripple consensus ledger. Those two banks, Alpha Bank and Beta Bank, could agree as a commercial matter that Beta Bank has received full payment from Alpha Bank in connection with the Alpha Corp to Beta Corp payment upon a transfer of a certain amount of XRP from Alpha Bank to Beta Bank. And in determining the exact amount of the XRP to be transferred, Alpha Bank and Beta Bank are implicitly agreeing to an exchange rate. So for example, Beta Bank would view this amount as the XRP it's willing to receive in exchange for that Thai baht payment that's on paying to Beta Corp.
Okay, so like I mentioned, before we kick it over to Jesse with this, I just want to share just a tad bit about this because, again, I want to share the background of this lady. So for one, what you see here is from ECB, again, European Central Bank. Think about who leads that up, right? Christine Lagarde. So Jess Cheng, like it says here, I'll just keep it right there because I want the flow a little bit better. She's a partner with Wilson, Sonsini, Goodrich, and Rosati's New York office. She was formerly senior counsel at the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. There is your plug and connect. Okay. Federal Reserve's payment service does include, of course, FedNow service. Prior to that, she was counsel at International Monetary Fund. Sorry. This just gets better and better. IMF. My goodness. Previously, she was deputy general counsel at Ripple. So, I mean, come on. I mean, my goodness, right? And then she currently serves as the vice chair of the American Bar Association Business Law Section's Uniform Commercial Code Committee. I'm so sorry. Sometimes just some of the research just makes me chuckle because when you get more into it, it's just there's so many people that will click off these videos. Jesse, I'm gonna come back in a friend. You deserve the talk. And guys, my apologies. When you see a delay, I kick it over to Jesse. It's because we're trying to connect everything for you guys. It's not me trying to be like dominating because I don't try to dominate any conversation, but we're trying to make the research really solid for you. But my goodness, I mean. Think about how many people, especially on our analytics, will click off of these videos within 5 minutes. They never stick around to the whole thing. I mean, some of the guys do because we see it in the comments, and we love you guys for that, right? But you know, these technologies, you know, it's like there's a slogan from Kronos, right? It goes, you know, was not necessarily them, but you know, there's a sense of patience. There's the ones that are impatient, right? They're always in a rush. You know, maybe they just want the pump and dumps, whatever the case be. Then there's people that really invest in real long-term investments, the real good investments. I want to give a shout out just real quick to my brother in space, Real Black. He did a live show a while back talking about how with Intel, if you were an early investor into Intel, you had to sit 15 years before you finally saw that do something. And we have people in this space, they complain about all this great news. Nothing's happening. Yeah, we're not mass adoption. You're investing into utility tokens because you need, and coins because you need that utility to be used. we're not fully at that. Anyway, I'm going to kick it over to you. Definitely want to get some of your insight because I think this is a big deal. And then we have the final connector from Smoke, and it's a whopper to say the least. This is a big FedNow update, and Stronghold doesn't get mentioned enough. They're definitely part of that mix. Thank you for your patience, Jesse.
Oh my goodness, it's oh my goodness, it's never ending. The connections are just insane. Like when people say like, "Oh, Ripple is just a dino coin, it's worthless, doesn't do nothing, they have no connections." I mean, my goodness, we can make this video 100 million hours. So this lady is the senior counsel, she's former senior counsel at the Federal Reserve. So this is the central bank. Okay, it's privately owned. It controls the country, right? Controls the economy of the country. So she was former senior advisor. So former senior lawyer, counsel, which is lawyer for the Federal Reserve. Before that, she was former senior lawyer for the IMF. And then who do we see Brad Garlinghouse sitting on stage with all the time? This is the now senior counsel counsel for the IMF, Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple sitting on stage with him. And then now the IMF has got this platform called the XC platform, which is literally, it describes Ripple technology to a T, right? So it's just never ending. It's just insane, like the connections. So let me see. I was taking notes here. I just gotta, because there's so much alpha. Like I gotta take notes because where was I here? So yeah, the XRP EVM side chains, like I was telling everybody, right? XRP's got those side chains. These are carbon copy clones of the XRP ledger, and a lot of the stuff is happening. The CBDCs are being built on these side chains. Anybody can build in a side chain. Any bank, if Amazon wants to launch a token, they can build it on a side chain. Like you can build any token on these side chains. You can build anything, tokenize anything. You want to tokenize your X and send her somewhere? Tokenize your X and send her across the country. Might not be the best example, but what else we got? So when they say irrevocable payments, right? To me, that's the atomic settlement, and also it would have to be decentralized blockchain, because if it's irrevocable, it means it's decentralized, in my opinion, right? And so for the FedNow, what we saw with the Ripple FedNow, well, I believe years ago, the Faster Payment Task Force for the Federal Reserve, this was almost like 7 years ago when I started researching XRP. The Faster Payment Task Force for FedNow had done a whole research, and they had all these companies, tech companies, payment companies, so on and so forth. And they gave the report, and they said that Ripple was the only technology that, met all the necessities and had everything that we needed for instant payments, instant settlement, and in this new digital age that we're moving into. And this was the Faster Payment Task Force of the Federal Reserve, and this is about 6-7 years ago. Okay, we know Ripple's been, and again, not only working with them, but chosen, and in a report saying they are the ones, only their technology can do it when it comes to cross-border instant settlement, all that good stuff, right? So it's never ending. So what else we have there? FedNow highlighted. Yeah, so I mean, it's Ripple everywhere. I mean, look, and the connections too. I mean, like she's senior counsel, for example, at Ripple. Then she goes to the Federal Reserve, or sometimes they're coming from the Federal Reserve, or sometimes they're coming from the DTCC, going to Ripple, and then going back to the Federal Reserve. Like DCCC, for example, settles 3,400 trillion. Our brother Channing did an amazing video on that. Right now they're settling like 11 trillion per day, so they might be settling at 4,000 trillion this year. And again, you see people coming from the DTCC going to Ripple, or they're going from Ripple to the DTCC. You've got people at the highest position in the U.S. Treasury going to Ripple, or maybe they're coming from Ripple going to the U.S. Treasury. Lawmakers, it's all senior of seniors of seniors. And you've got Ripple, our advisors for the IMF, for blockchain and distributed ledger technology, all that good stuff. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, it's like, oh my goodness! Like, again, we could do videos 100 million hours, but we don't. We can't do that. Like, nobody's gonna sit here and watch a 100 million hour video, right? So it's.
Oh, you might be surprised. There might be some people. Anyway, I'm kidding.
Oh, we can try.
Guys, we want to show the last connector of it all, and it's a big one, again, from Smoke. It's really, really great being able to just take these findings with the research and provide it to the community and so on. So we're going to pull this up. 2 more tabs, basically, one from Smoke, one from myself, in regard to the breakdown. So in the breakdown, what does Smoke have to connect it all or finalize it all? Well, clear breakdown to exactly how FedNow connects to the Interledger Protocol and XRP. Like I said, FedNow to FedLine equals TCP IP-based network messaging system for 10,000 banks. I mean, shout out to you guys that kind of know some of the terminology, right? Going from the day and age of TCP IP and IPv4 to IPv6, what ones have advanced that technology moving forward, right? So Interledger and XRP front runners to be TCP IP equivalent in FinTech plus ILP presentation on TCP IP. And let's blow this up, because when we do, you see this, and it mentions specifically from Computer World. That's the citation. So it says here, FedNow will run on FedLine's an IP-based network and messaging system that currently provides payment and information services to more than 10,000 financial organizations. Not like it's just a handful, 10,000. Wow. That's a big deal, okay? And so the other thing I want to pull up from Smoke is this. Let's jump back also to here and pull it up on the other page. So in this citation, it says, the following network access is required for FedLine Advantage subscribers. Now, really pay close attention to this, because otherwise, sometimes you just kind of miss it. So it says specifically that the Federal Reserve banks cannot provide any setup or configuration assistance to troubleshoot network access issues when using non-Federal Reserve Bank designated or provided equipment. This includes firewall and router configurations. But again, Federal Reserve cannot what? FedLine Advanced subscribers, TCP IP. I mean, it just seems so clear as day that if you combine this even with ISO 222, it's like, yeah, mandates are there for a reason. Okay, but do you have a contingency plan? A contingency, by definition, is an emergency plan. And another outline we did a while back, it's like, yeah, guess what? It's having a backup plan with the legacy system. So we're going to be good either way. And if you haven't seen those videos, again, hopefully I could provide you guys at least an entry screen card. Now, as I take you to this other part from what Smoke has, I want to get into this. And let's go ahead and put this up on the other screen as well. Smoke points out we now all use one network protocol. This is why we mentioned TCP IP. Only one is required, hence like the internet, right? Applies to digital assets. Interledger and XRP are the front runners to be the TCP IP equivalent in the world of fintech. At this point in time, no one can compete with the XRP ledgers. I'm going to zoom in on that. No one can compete with the XRP ledgers. Think about that for a second, okay? There it is right there. No one compete with the XRP ledger's technical spec or the performance of the consensus algorithm. This performance is set to improve with future updates. Well, yeah, because you don't want it to be necessarily old, outdated tech. It needs to scale up. And we've done an outline also about how can you get like more TPS. It's the partnership with the Bank for International Settlements with the M10. M10 allows XRP, XLM, some of the other ones tied to ISO 222 to scale up to over 1 million TPS. That's through the M10. So if you have a plug with the BIS, it's a big deal moving forward, right? All right, a little bit more about this from Smoke. And this one, excuse me, this will be the final tab. This is 30 seconds. This is in regard to Apex, not Apex Crypto Consulting, but kind of funny coincidence. In regard to TCP IP and the internet ledgers. This pounds home everything and why we do the deep dive research. Listen to this. We'll come back here in just a moment. Here we go.
Packetizing and transporting data across a network of computers, the Interledger protocol found a way to standardize, packetize, and transport money across different places where you store money. We call these ledgers, but if you think about ledgers, they used to be literally a book of accounts that stored value and recorded your transactions. Your bank had a ledger, your shopkeeper had a ledger. Everywhere where you had credit, we stored money, there was a ledger associated with it. And when those moved to the digital world with developers, you know how developers are, I'm one of them.
So that was real quick. And in my opinion, that pounds home pretty much everything for the most part. So we're glad to obviously bring that to you guys. And if anything, Jesse, totally want to get your closing thoughts in regard to Smoke presented in that last connector, especially with the guy literally from the Interledger protocol.
Yeah, I think Smoke needs to get a Nobel Prize, man. Like every day, they just alpha after alpha. Man, thank you so much for Smoke. My goodness, give that guy a follow for sure. So I'm just taking notes here. FedNow, yeah. So we see the FedNow and the Interledger protocol. Again, I've been telling people when you're seeing the BIS documents, okay, that is showing the shared ledger or unified ledger being connected via the Interledger protocol. Those shared ledger is, for example, FedNow or the payment system, the RTGS system for another central bank. It's like, because the documents that came out from the Hyperledger Foundation many years ago, which it laid out the internal value, it's saying that they were building it on the top of the Interledger protocol, and it was saying the XRP ledger was the global RTGS system, and on the side of that were all the central banks' RTGS system. Okay, so all these different RTGS systems that we were seeing in that document showing the internal value, all those RTGS system are sidechains of the XRP ledger. Okay, and technically those are shared ledgers. They're all shared ledgers because they're carbon copy clones of the XRP ledger. The XRP ledger by definition is a shared ledger, and that's so FedNow is technically a shared ledger or RTGS. It's just unreal. Like you're seeing that everywhere. That's why I'm telling people that shared ledger, that unified ledger, is the XRP ledger, and XLM will play a role because they're both built on the Interledger protocol. And so it's different than the secure asset transfer protocol that Quant is creating, which is absolutely mind-boggling. So yeah, it's never ending, buddy. It's like it's
like the song that never ends goes on and on, my friend, right?
Yeah.
We want to share one last thing, excuse me, and then we will totally wrap this up. So again, for you newcomers, okay, because we did mention a little bit of QNT. Just in case you've never seen it, most have, but some haven't. Go to gilbertverdine.com/CV. What do you see here? Well, you see that Gilbert, basically speaking, Federal Reserve, Fed Payments Improvement Community, April 2018 to present. Improvement Community. Improving what? Improving FedNow. He still sits on that, and previously he was part of the Federal Reserve Secure Payments Task Force from March 2017 to July 2018, and of course ISO TC 307 Blockchain Distributed Ledger Technologies 2017 to present, which is basically Quant Networks. What? That's their standard. BSI Chair DLT1 Distributed Ledger Technologies 2017 to present. Again, never forget about his connection to the United States Federal Reserve. Some people point out that Quant has no connections to the United States. Hey, the saying goes, that right there, that's all you really need. And so with that also said, there you guys have it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Simply type this key word into the comments if you haven't done so, or you're not going to do so already. You're about to. And type this in, and I'll give you the honor of that code word for everybody can know if they, for we can know, excuse me, if you listen to the entire outline. What is it?
It's FedNow XRP.
FedNow XRP. And we'll know that you listen to the entire outline. On behalf of myself and Jesse of Apex Crypto Consulting NFA, know what you have, know what you hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, guys.